I'm sitting here in the lobby of Hamilton Castor, which is probably one of Hamilton's longest existing industries. I'm here with Dave Lippert, the president, and tell me, Dave, a little bit about John Weigel and what he was up to in 1907.
Well, John Weigel was my great-grandfather, and John was one of these German guys, very entrepreneur-oriented, and loved to work with his hands, wanted to be an inventor of stuff, and loved doing machining kinds of things. Tinkerer, I think, is one way to describe him. So we did a lot of different things in his early years, but eventually settled on the casters. And so of all the different forays into different products and things he could make, casters were the part that stuck, and that's the space we're in today. Came out of the start of the company in 1907, but by 1920 he had outgrown the lease space he was in over on Hanover Street and bought this space, which at the time on Dixie Highway was way out, a green field of their day.
Right, right.
And so people wondered why John would buy something so far out of town, but we're on about 3 acres between Dixie Highway and the railroad, and at the time he had interested in having railroad access for his property. Yeah.
Now, do you know some of the things that he was working on that didn't quite stick?
Well, one of the things was a stoker. There was that was basically a heating device for home heating. He was into tire changers for automobiles. None of these things worked, and I think there were a number of others, some of which we know, some of which we probably don't know. And what we do know is that the caster part worked. In fact, at the time, there were probably 6 or 7 other caster manufacturers in Hamilton, along with John Weigel's company, Hamilton Castor.
Yeah.
Today, we would struggle to find 6 or 7 other caster manufacturers in the United States that are still making things here. So the world completely changed, but the market clearly was much more regional to local. They made things that were much smaller. So I have a caster in my office that dates back into his era with a patent, a little dual-wheeled caster. We call it the shoe rack caster, because in the day shoe stores had most of their shoes on racks. They would roll them out onto the sidewalk in the morning apparently and roll them back in the evening. And all the sales came off of these shoe racks. Well, the shoe rack caster was to the caster industry like the Model T was to the automotive world, because that, in one way, put us on the map, and probably other companies as well. Yeah. So that was like a huge product for Hamilton Castor in the early days.
Yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere. Was it his innovation in creating the casters, or was it his business acumen that has allowed this business to stick around and flourish?
Well, the different generations answer that question. John was the inventor, so he was the guy with ideas. He was the guy that could create something new, get a patent. So he had a number of patents. I don't know the number, but he developed and achieved stuff that was patentable. He was the idea guy. He was not the business guy. And so what happened is the business was successful, I think largely on the basis of the stuff he could make and design and develop. And then the company grew, and then we hit this thing called the Great Depression in the late 20s and early 30s. And like a lot of companies, this one just about went under. And our historical records tell us that he tried to sell it. No one would buy it because, well, nobody had any money, right? Because it was the Great Depression. And so it became a second-generation family business, because one of his daughters, my grandmother, and her husband bought the company in 1939. And it was interesting that she became the second president. So John Weigel was the first president, the founder, and Esther, at that time then Lippert, became the second president, which was pretty unusual in that day to have a woman-led company. But she was president for about 4 years because my grandfather had we'll say, a well-paying job in the marketing world in Cincinnati, and this company couldn't afford to absorb him until about 1943.
And so it stayed in the family ever since then?
It stayed in the family, and so John Weigel got things going, but pulling pulling us through the Depression was not in his wheelhouse. And so my grandfather, Ralph Lippert, was not an entrepreneur, but a great guy to dig a company out of debt and to put things on solid footing and to make good marketing decisions. And so between the marketing, the continued growth in sales, putting money away, paying off debt, all that stuff, that by the time the third generation arrived, the financial footing of this company was really solid. And so the third generation was well, my grandparents had 4 sons, and 3 of them ended up working most of their careers here.
Very good, very good. Now, I think I read somewhere that you guys were making some things that were a big part of the space race.
You know, you could look at the industries between space, aerospace, automotive. There are a number of, most industries will have something of Hamilton in them, either the casters and the wheels, or the carts and the trailers, or some of both.
So you get around all over the world.
We actually literally do ship all around the world. I couldn't tell you we've shipped to every country in the world, but we've shipped to probably every continent. I'd have to think about it. I know we've shipped to Australia and China and Asia.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have some signature products or a big line of things?
We have a good lineup, especially in the casters and wheels, of standard products. In the world of trucks, carts, and trailers, industrial trailers, we have evolved much more into a special custom designed application based product line. So it's not stuff that we can put in the catalog as a standard. It's more, we can make what you need and it'll fit exactly what your application requires.
Do you have numbers about how many casters you guys make in a year?
Wow. There are probably numbers, but it's in the tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands? Yeah. Have you guys done any expanding in recent years?
What we have done is actually started a lean journey back in 1995. And so in the 90s, we had leased space off outside of our 4 walls here, off property, just because we were out of space. And the lean journey, one of the things it achieved was we reduced a lot of stock. A lot of raw stock and a lot of what we call WIP, or work in process. And that opened up a lot of space. So we run 2 shifts in most of the operation, and we fit everything into the existing space. And yeah, we've had additions over the years. The last big addition was in 1984.
Okay.
And we added some space on the north end of the building. But a lot of growth happened since then. We've just absorbed the growth into existing space by making things leaner, we'll say, on our journey.
Do you guys do research here? Do you try and make products that are more better, make products that are more efficient, or
Well, there's a certain amount of standard product development, and so you ask an interesting question, because just yesterday we had our annual meeting with all our employees and different people engaged in the company here, and one of the things we do is give out awards for different things, and we had a caster engineer received 2 plaques. He was able to get 2 patents approved in the course of 2015. So there is product development research going on. We have a lot of testing happening. But actually we're innovating every day in the space of custom engineered products. So there's product development that happens as part of our DNA, even though it's not necessarily all directed as standard line.
Okay. Now, I think one thing that a lot of industries in Hamilton had to face was, migration to the Sun Belt or migration overseas. How has Hamilton Caster been able to stay in Hamilton and remain a local family business for this long?
Well, I think the answer starts with, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. So having roots in a space, with John Weigel and then Ralph and Esther, then the third generation came on, and it was during the third generation's leadership that the foreign import assault really happened. A lot of stuff made in China, Asia, and what that did is it drove us and some of our competitors into heavier duty things. So typically the imports start with the lightest duty because it's the highest volume stuff. So think desk chairs, furniture, casters, that sort of thing. Those casters started to be made en masse offshore, sometimes sent here to be put on the furniture, sometimes made as part of the furniture. And so Hamilton was always in the industrial realm, but we had to migrate to bigger and heavier casters and wheels over the years, and that started back in the third generation's time. And so part of the answer is we shifted our focus to the parts of the market that the imports weren't able to address. And really that effort still continues. It's part of why we spend a lot of energy on this custom design stuff, because they're usually small quantities, they're very unique to a customer, they're typically in the US, and the imports are not interested, at least at this point, in that custom engineered, that they want high volume.
How many people do you employ here now?
We are at 79 at the moment, so we're bouncing around that 80 point.
That's good. And how many buildings do you have on this campus?
Well, it's going to depend on how you define
how
buildings.
You count them?
we have two main buildings, but the one that we're sitting in here is a patchwork of buildings and additions and fill-ins over a lot of years.
Yeah, yeah. I'd like to take a look. Can you walk us around a little bit?
We can
show our
that.
viewers what goes on inside here?
Absolutely.
All right, very good.
This is just, it's always colorful because every pink piece of paper is an order. So we do a lot of small orders. One of our claims to fame is the quick shipping.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff was ordered this morning and it'll go out this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So we do a lot of same day or next day. So if somebody calls in after lunch, we'll ship it tomorrow. If they call in before lunch, it'll go today.
Yeah.
For thousands of different items.
Yeah.
But this shows the breadth of, we've got plastic wheels, polyurethane wheels. There are different kinds of polyurethane wheels. There's many different sizes. We got 4-inch, 8-inch, different widths. So we got 2-inch wide, 3-inch wide. And they grow in size. Here's one that's probably about 16 inches.
Wow.
We have flange track casters, flange track wheels. There's stainless casters and wheels over there. More stainless coming. So we're just looking at a small sampling of the product offerings that are largely, in this case, standard products at Hamilton Casting.
Are these color coded in some way, or is it just kind of random?
A little bit. Some we call the frames here, the rigs, are color coded by family or series, but basically the colors can mean something, but don't always.
Yeah.
So some of the tread colors mean different things. But some customers specify a color, and so we can pretty much match what they want to a tread. So.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, but this is a pretty common. This green is pretty common for us, and the blue is another common color. It's just a different compound. So this is probably is a good general purpose polyurethane. Really good in the industry for industrial use. It keeps things quiet, protects the floor, and has high load-bearing capacity, meaning we can put a lot of weight on one of these. You can put a lot of weight on a plastic wheel too, but it's noisier.
Oh, okay.
And then you can put a lot of weight on a steel wheel, but it tears the floor up.
Yeah.
And then you get into this. This is a softer polyurethane, so it's more ergonomic. It's easier to push. So it depends on what you're looking for.
Okay.
But there's just seemingly infinite variety. We showed that caster that John Weigel did back in 1921, right?
Right, yeah.
And it had the oscillating caster, the oscillating axle. So this is way bigger than what we saw in 1921 because we've migrated into that heavy industrial stuff. But we're still doing the two wheels, so two wheels there'll be a wheel on each side, and the axle will go back and forth. What that does, it distributes the weight evenly over uneven surface, so the capacity of the whole system or caster is higher as a result of that. So you can see all the hardware that's going to go in, then there'll be a wheel on each side, a big wheel about yay high. So this is, I won't say typical, but we do a lot of these casters this big. Then there's a swivel lock down here, so it'll lock in 90-degree positions. So in a caster, there's all kinds of opportunities, options, design features.
Yeah.
All the components. This is all engineered right here at Hamilton Casting.
Very good.
This is the router. This will machine an entire kit of wood parts for a wood truck. So the router picks up different tools that are mounted to this thing, and it's doing all the shaping, all the drilling, all the grooving, all pre-programmed through the computer. Those parts it's working on now, those are the stakes that'll go at the four corners.
Do you ever wonder what your great-grandpa would think if he saw this kind of stuff going on?
You know, it'd be like watching man land on the moon, right? It'd be that kind of a, yeah, it would be interesting. Of course, 20 years after we're gone, we'd be shocked at what the world's going to look like.
That's true.
Right? But it's interesting, a vacuum holds all those parts down.
Oh, really?
So there's a vacuum system that holds every part to the table so it can machine them and they don't move.
Wow.
And then the little pegs are just positioning. So when he puts the raw parts are behind us over there.
Yeah.
And
so they're not clamped at all?
They're not clamped.
Okay.
They're just held down with a vacuum. It might be finished now. It's going to put the tool back.
Now, do you develop the machinery too, or is that something you just go to the store and buy?
Kind of like the store and buy.
Yeah.
Most equipment we have here, not all, most of it is, I'll say off the shelf, but you know, you spec things out.
Sure.
So it's not quite like went to the store and buy. What it's doing, this board and that board, the flat one, the skinnier ones,
Yeah.
are the end boards of the deck, and so it's pre-drilling nail holes, which we can barely hear.
Oh, okay.
But that's important
I
for
see it now,
starting
yeah.
the nails. This is oak or ash, so it's really hard. So we're going to use those holes as a guide for starting the deck.
I see.
There's actually, because we can use the machine to do it, we used to have to hand drill them and get them ready. Now the machine drills them.
Wow.
And all the rest of the nails will blow in with a pneumatic nail gun. So when it comes off at the table, this is what it looks like. And then it's going to go to assembly. So this is where we put them together. So that represents the parts that are going to go into the truck. And then Keith is the master at putting these together. We developed this whole workstation to accommodate good workflow. That was part of the lean journey.
Yeah.
So he pulls his parts. These are all the parts that we just saw being made on the machine.
I could have used him a couple weeks ago when my daughter was trying to put together her IKEA bookshelf.
Oh, well, yeah. So some of these are like locator positions that the router put for that kind of a thing.
Wow.
So this is how the wood trucks get built, and then that's a finished one, except for painting. Here we talked about a real high capacity trailer that's waiting for wheels, so it's nearly finished. It'll get wheels installed, and then it has to have the top painted. And then this was a real special custom designed cart for another manufacturing company in Ohio. And then the next stage of that was over here. So we got the wheels on, now we have to finish coat the top. Most of what we do in this department is special custom built equipment. Here's where we take a raw casting and we're going to machine it. Basically you machine half and then machine the other half. We're going to drill a lubrication hole, which he's doing right now. Now he's going to paint it. Then he's going to transfer that onto the drying rack. Now that whole spinning system was designed and built here. And this whole rack system was basically just custom built for this. So now it's just really a Ferris wheel. And he's going to take a dry wheel and he's going to put a bearing in it. And he's pressing in basically fitted washers that hold the bearing in. And then he puts it in the finished bin and he's good to go. So one of the things we're trying to do in the lean journey is keep things neat, organized, easy to find, labeled. Yeah. And so they go through and you know if something's missing, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's the whole theme here is this is the machine that's so big we need steps, right?
Yeah.
So he's got 4 of these wheels to make. That's what we start with. That's the casting over in front of the machine.
Okay.
And then he's machining the center part. He's going to press, I think he's already got some pressed in on that one. And then this goes on the outside. So the wheel is going to be this big when it's finished. Right now he's machining the part that goes inside of that. Even marketing doesn't disagree with this. We call these wheels press on.
Yeah.
Because we're going to press this onto that.
And the industrial press.
On the industrial press. You're all over this though. I mean, you're like the guy.
I'm quick, man.
You are.
Quick.
This is a rig cell, so this is where we're tying together a lathe, a mill, a robot welder, assembly, and paint. And they start with all sorts of parts that we have to machine, weld, put together. So Tom's starting with forgings, and then he's going to machine it.
Oh, okay.
On that. And then he's making a set that'll become a caster. And the goals end up with this, which is a finished part. This piece was all designed and built right here for us.
Okay.
So we bought the machine a long time ago, and then we built this to fit what we do here. This is the welding robot. So he's working on, well, you can, go ahead, Ray. So this is what makes the robot do what it's supposed to do. Once he's got it programmed and all set up and adjusted right, then it'll just repeat and repeat. So this space that we're looking at is where the engineering at Hamilton Caster happens, and we do the engineering for the casters, the wheels, and the trucks and carts. All happens in this space with these folks. So this is product development, like live and happening as unfolding as we're videotaping.
Well, Dave, thanks a lot for the tour, man. That was fascinating stuff.
Appreciate it.
And good luck with the future, and hope you guys have another 100 years. Maybe we'll come back then.
All right. Well, it won't be me, but hopefully
won't be me
somebody will
either.
be here.
All right. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.